The Age of Johnson, also known as the Age of Sensibility, refers to a period in English literature spanning roughly from 1744 to 1798. It is named after Samuel Johnson, a prominent writer and critic of the time. I've done a lecture specifically on Samuel Johnson that you can find here. It is also known as the Transition Age because it bridges the Augustan Age, when Pope and Swift were writing, and the Romantic Age, when Wordsworth and Coleridge were writing. Moving away from the rigid rules of neoclassicism, like order, reason, decorum, this age was moving towards emotion, individualism, and imagination. So you can tell where this age is going. The period included Enlightenment thinking, but also conservative values. There was tension between tradition and change. Literature showed a growing concern with self and personal experience. Autobiographies, diaries, and reflective essays became more popular. Example, Boswell's Life of Johnson. Literature of this era often had a moral purpose. Johnson especially believed in the didactic role of literature, that is, to teach and to improve readers. Writers focused on virtue, conduct, and religious values. This age saw a rise in prose writing, like essays, literary criticism, and novels. Samuel Johnson, Edmund Burke, and Edward Gibbon were key prose writers. The prose became more flexible, polished, and intellectual. Samuel Johnson's Life of the Poets and his preface to Shakespeare were seminal works in English literary criticism. The novel as a form matured, and realistic portrayal of life became key in the novel form. Despite all this growth, the drama of this period is considered weak, and it lacked innovation. Theatre declined, and sentimental comedy replaced the sharp wit of earlier Restoration drama. So while the Age of Johnson was definitely very dynamic when it came to literature, it was also very dynamic when it came to revolutions, because two major revolutions took place in this age. The first was the American Revolution of 1775, which lasted till 1783. It was a colonial revolt against British rule, rooted in Enlightenment ideas such as liberty, democracy, and individual rights. The slogan, "No taxation without representation," summed up the colonists' demand for political agency. Influenced by thinkers like John Locke, Americans argued for a government based on consent of the governed. The revolution resulted in the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and eventually the US Constitution in 1787, introducing concepts like separation of powers, checks and balances, and basic civil liberties. It inspired oppressed groups across the world by proving that a society could break from monarchy and build a republic rooted in law and reason. Similarly, the French Revolution happened in 1789 and lasted till 1799. It was far more radical and bloody, and was driven by economic inequality, political corruption, and popular resentment of the aristocracy and clergy. It was deeply influenced by Enlightenment ideals too, like equality, fraternity, secularism, and the rights of man. But the French pursued them with ferocious intensity. The abolition of monarchy, the execution of Louis XVI, and the Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen signaled a new social order, one that challenged not only kings, but the very hierarchies of birth and wealth. It shook Europe to its core, inspiring democratic movements, but also terrifying the ruling elites, eventually leading to Napoleon's rise and the reshaping of Europe. It was also during the Age of Johnson that Industrial Revolution, especially its early phase in Britain, roughly from 1760s onwards, kicked forward. It marked the shift from agrarian economies to industrialized, machine-based production, beginning in England. With inventions like the spinning jenny, steam engine, and power loom, industries such as textile, coal, iron rapidly expanded. This led to urbanization, child labor, a new working class, and the rise of capitalism. Economic power shifted from the land-owning aristocracy to the bourgeois, the middle-class industrialist. It challenged old feudal structures and started demanding legal reforms, workers' rights, and representation. It indirectly set the stage for the 19th century political ideologies like liberalism, socialism, and trade unionism. The end of the Age of Johnson marked the end of the Enlightenment period. To know more about the entire Enlightenment period, have a look at this lecture. I've also done lectures on movements that overlapped with the Age of Johnson in the late 18th century, followed by the Romantic Age in the 19th century. To know more about them, have a look at these lectures.